Okay, so the next thing we're doing is parallel lines. Now, this topic is actually quite nice because it's quite tedious in the sense that once you know the method, you just do the same thing over and over again. Hard thing is, it is a lot of algebra based, so a lot of substitution and things like that. So if you're a fan of algebra, you're going to love this. If you're not, you're just going to have to practice it a little bit more. So the first thing we need to know is that parallel lines, this means that when two lines have the same, obviously we know that it means that two lines don't cross over, but for that to happen, it means that the two lines have the same gradient. Okay, so the gradient again is the number that's in front of the x. So for example, this one, we're going to need to know the gradient of this line would be 2. Okay, so for these ones, I will write steps as well. So step 1 is find the gradient. Okay, which we've just done. We've just worked out that the gradient is 2. Okay, step 2. We rewrite the formula that we keep coming back to. So the y equals, I'll write it up here as well, y equals mx plus c. Okay, but we know what the m is because we've just worked it out in step 1. So we're going to replace the m with the gradient. Okay, so replace m with gradient. Okay. Step 3. Sub in coordinate. Now with these questions you'll also be given a coordinate. So for this one we're given 4 and 9. Now the first number in the coordinate represents the x and the second one represents the y. So what it's telling us is that this point lies on the line that we're looking for, okay? And it's saying that when x is 4, y is 9. Okay, so if we put those into our equation that we've got so far, it will then allow us to work out what c is because that's the only letter that is left in the equation. Okay, so y is 9, so it'd be 9 equals 2 multiplied by whatever x is, which is 4, plus c. Now obviously we don't know what c is, that's the whole point. So step 4 is find c. Okay, so I'm going to simplify this at the moment. So 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, now we want c on its own. We don't want it to be with the 8, so I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. Okay, so it's going to give us c is equal to 9 take away 8, which is just 1. Okay, so step 5, we just need to say what the answer is. So we come back to step 2, which is the y equals 2x plus c. Now we know what c is now. We know c that is 1. So that means that we can now just write plus 1 there instead of plus c. Okay, so that is our final answer. Now if you follow these steps, you will get the right answer every single time, okay? So step 1, find the gradient of the line, okay, because the gradient of the line that you're looking for will be the same because they're parallel. Next one, step 2, we write out the general equation of a linear line, but we replace the m with the gradient that we've just worked out. Step 3, we sub in the coordinates, we know which one's x and which one's y. Step 4, we solve the equation to work out what c is. And step 5, just write down the answer at the end. Okay, we'll do another one. Okay, so find the equation parallel to 2y equals 6x, 6x, take away 10, and passes through -1, 4. There we go. Okay, now when we did finding gradients of lines, I said that you could get more complicated ones like this because it has to be y equals, it can't be 2y. So before we can even find the gradient, we need to divide the whole equation by 2. And we get y equals 3x subtract 5. Okay, so step 1, was to find the gradient. We now know the gradient is 3. Step 2. We write out the equation of any linear line, which is this, but we replace the m with what the gradient is, which we know is 3. Step 3. We look at the coordinate. We're going to label it x and y. So first one is always x, second one is always y. Think about the alphabet. The first one's x in the alphabet and then the second one's y. Okay, so we're going to sub those in. So y is 4. Okay, remember when you've got a number and a letter next to each other, it does mean multiply. Okay, step 4, I'm going to write here, we need to solve it. So I'm going to simplify a little bit. So 3 times -1 is -3. So we've got 4 equals -3 plus c. Now we don't want this -3 because we just want c on its own. So we're going to have to add 3 onto both sides. So c is 7. Step 5, we're just going to write the answer. So it comes back to step 2. Y equals 3x plus c, but we know that c is 7. So it's going to be plus 7. And that's the final answer.